studios in New York City. This is Charlie Rose.
James Bond has been a part of our popular culture since 1953. It began with the novels of Ian Fleming, then it was the movies produced by Cubby Broccoli. Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan have all carried the 007 rank with the license to kill. Joining me now is Daniel Craig. He is the sixth man to become the legendary agent. Here he is as James Bond in the trailer for Casino Royale.
Your file shows no kills. But to become a 00, it takes 2. How did you die? Your contact? Not well. You needn't worry. The second is... Yes. Considerably.
The man was Le Chiffre, private banker to the world's terrorists, which would explain how he could set up a high-stakes poker game at Casino Royale in Montenegro. If he loses this game, he'll have nowhere to run. You're the best player in the service.
The Treasury has agreed to stake you in the game. But if you lose, our government will have directly financed terrorism. I will be keeping my eye on our government's money and off your perfectly formed house.
You noticed. I hope our little game isn't causing you to perspire.
It doesn't bother you killing those people.
Well, I wouldn't be very good at my job if it did.
How's our girl? Melted your cold heart yet?
James, get the girl out.
You're not going to let me in there. You've got your armor back on.
I have no armor left. You've stripped it from me. Whatever is left of me. Whatever I am. I'm yours. The only question remains. Will you yield? In time.
Daniel Craig also appears in Infamous, the story of how Truman Capote's nonfiction novel In Cold Blood was written. I am pleased to have him at this table for the first time. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure. Tell me what this means when you do this. When you say, okay, I'm going to be James Bond. What does it mean to you? What are the...
I mean, that's a kind of difficult question to answer, because at the time I think it feels sort of like this shouldn't be happening to me, and why the hell is this going on, and what am I sort of, what do you want from me? You know, James Bond means a great deal to many people, also has always meant a great deal to me, and I sort of feel quite an attachment to it. And it came down to the fact that we're doing Casino Royale, we're starting again. The conceit of the movie is that we can begin again, we can start to understand this character. And as an actor, that's too big a challenge. And you know, he's one of the biggest icons in cinema. And just the challenge, really just the challenge to say, come on, let's have a go at this, see what we can do with it.
And kind of a metaphor for Britain after World War II, in a sense.
Certainly was. I mean, I think that, you know, I mean, I've spoken to my father about it. He always says, you know, this sort of depression of the 50s and sort of, you know, the fact that sort of empire had disappeared, and then along comes his character. I think the special thing, really, and that, you know, is a lot down to Sean Connery, in spite of the Ian Fleming character, as rich and as complicated as it was. Casting Sean, a Scotsman, in the role as the quintessential Englishman, really put the spin on it. And probably it's one of the reasons it's lasted so long.
What is it the audience likes about him?
Well, he's bad. I mean, I think, and in all sorts of ways.
And he has license to be bad.
Yes.
That's what it is. I mean, you can be bad with permission.
He's sort of the character that knows who the bad guy is and goes after them. There's something, you know, there's something we immediately understand about this man. And he's, you know, he gets the bad guy, but he does it with style, and that, you know, those two things, I don't know really. They're kind of unexplainable. I mean, someone keeps on. I've been asked the question so many times. Why do you think it's lasted for so long? And it's really a very complicated answer. I'm not sure whether because it adapts, because it was such a great character, because it's such an old. I mean, every culture has a sort of one hero going after, going after justice, and he is the British one. And it's really an impossible question to answer.
And he had style.
For sure.
You know.
And that's Ian Fleming. I mean, he set that up very carefully in the first book, you know, whether he was driving a supercharged Bentley or his Rolex watch, all which have disappeared.
It may be the best franchise in movie history.
I like to think so. I think Star Wars is
certainly. Well, I don't know which has been richer. But there is also this. When you did this, some of your people who admired your work on stage and admired your work in Layer Cake and admired your work in other films said, why is he doing this? This is beneath him. Well, I mean, I certainly wouldn't have attempted to do this job if I thought it was beneath me in any way. Beneath is a bad word. But I you know what of course I do. I mean, I got asked the question the other day, is this Daniel Craig selling out? And it was not. There's not even, you know, when I was deciding to do this job, I weighed up every angle. Well, tell me what that process was about. Well, I mean, the process was really to do with the fact that I was working. I mean, I was in the middle of shooting Munich with Stephen, and things were going pretty well. Right. I mean, there seemed to be no reason to do something this sort of spectacular in a way. And it kind of, as I said, it kind of comes down to one of those challenges in life. And Barbara Broccoli, you said you were talking about Cubby Broccoli, both of them, they're very persuasive people. I mean, Barbara's the daughter of Cubby. Barbara's the daughter of Cubby, and you know, still the producer. And still the producer. And she always said to me that she wanted me to do it. And I said to her from the very beginning, I said, look, if you allow me to get involved with this, if you allow me to get involved with every process that's going on, with the music, with the way it looks, with the way it feels, and allow me to sort of just have a go at recreating something here, but I promise you I won't let you down on the Bond factor, then I can walk onto that set and pretend to be James Bond. And she recreating because it's Casino Royale. Yeah. You know, it's the beginning. It's the beginning. You see how he comes to have this job. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, and also we then get a chance to see how maybe he becomes the man he is. And what we have is, you know, and it's in the book, Ian Fleming put it there, is we have a story, we have, I mean, it was the death of his girl. The death of this girl. He falls in love. I mean, it's too tempting. I mean, it's just too tempting. I mean, you know, for that in a second. Well, I know it's James Bond, but it's also you know, you've got such a great storyline. So once you decide to do it, once they set it up, how do you go about preparing for it? First of all, you got to look. Yeah, well, physically, fittest in your life. I mean, physically, I thought I owed it to the part because I think things have moved on, because we have a sort of probably a firmer idea of what, you know, the world is in, you know, a certain mess at the moment. We know professional people. He's a professional. Ian Fleming wrote, I think, you know, he wrote in the days of the amateur, you know, the sort of the British amateur who could do everything, who was a member of the Secret Service, who did this, but also played cricket for England, and so, you know. And at that time, all the people in the Secret Service came from Oxford or Cambridge. Well, and certainly Bond does, but there's also the story that, you know, he was orphaned very young, and so sort of went to Oxford. And, you know, was really kind of had a tough time, as tough as he could. So, and that sort of formed him. But, you know, he's a professional, and now I had to sort of make sure we saw that. So physically, I just got into shape. I mean, I started hitting the gym and getting my head around it. And I watched every single movie. I watched all of them sort of 2-3 times. And what did you get out of that? Well, what's incredible is that, you know, some of them are better than others. That's what I know, for sure. But each one always has a key element in them that makes it incredibly watchable. Yeah. And you know, again, it brings it back to that question of why it's lasted. Why, you know, we have, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now into the, you know, 2000s. It still sort of has relevance and still seems to sort of be wanting to end. Well, you know, I mustn't cut my nose off to spite my face, but hopefully it will still keep on entertaining audiences. You liked Connery best? I did. But then, you know, Dr. No, From Russia with Love are two of my favourite movies. Movies, period? Period, yeah, movies, beyond the fact that they're Bond movies. Because? Because the style, because the fact that they were filmed beautifully, the fact that in From Russia with Love you have Robert Shaw, who's probably one of the best villains that ever was. God, he was great. And one of the greatest actors, and I'm a big fan of his. So, and, you know, they're still as exciting now to watch as they ever were. And I think way ahead of their time. And now you have Judi Dench. I know.
Well, she's incredible.
Apart from the villain, but you've got Judi Dench.
Well, she's the balance. And I'm so grateful to the fact that she decided she wanted to continue doing M, because it kind of allows him to sort of be a chauvinist still. It allows him to be this sort of, to have this attitude towards, any relationship, but particularly towards women. And she's kind of mum, I mean, she's the one that kind of cares for him most. And in the film, we sort of address that a little, that she sort of sets him off the leash. Yeah. And gives him his 00 status. And, of course, I think there's slight regret in her because, of course, she's lost somebody by doing it.
Yeah, but you also say that when you do a scene with her, she just draws you in because of the eyes.
I can't explain it to you. She's got pools for eyes. And you find yourself almost like with a hook in your mouth being dragged towards it. I'm sure it's a ploy.
Yeah. She actually loves doing it. I mean, she's been on this show many times.
Yeah.
And loves doing it.
Yeah.
Has fun with it.
Well, she was very happy this time because she's complaining that ordinarily on the movies she's locked in a studio at Pinewood while everybody else is off at beautiful locations.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually she got to fly out and be on set in the Bahamas, so she was very happy about that.
Tell me a little bit about this story for those who are not familiar with Casino Royale, because it was done a while ago.
Well, we set up from the beginning, and obviously the conceit of the movie is that we want the audience to sort of come say, look, we haven't seen this man before, let's reintroduce him. Hopefully within the first 10 minutes we know where we are.
Is that the black and white that we saw?
Yeah, that's our pre-title sequence, as every Bond film has to have a pre-title sequence. Right. And that we set up just to give the audience a nudge. There's an organisation that uses terrorism to try and destabilise the world, to sort of, we're not sure why. It's not politically or religious based. It's obviously a group of people, who are trying to just use money to destabilise it. And their cipher is a man called Le Chiffre, who is using the money on the stock market to ruin companies and make more money and cause mayhem. He happens to be a gambler and loses some money down to me. And
like £1 million, was it? Or?
No, I think it's a little more than that. It's
150
million pounds,
right.
which he then has to go and win back. So he's set up a poker game in Montenegro.
In Texas Hold'em.
In Texas Hold'em, right. Which is the game of today. And actually in the book, I think it was Chemin de Fer, which was the game of the day when Fleming wrote...
Let me set up this scene to see you in this role. This is where M, played by Judi Dench, confronts you after a botched mission. Anything else I should add to this?
No.
Okay, well, so here it is.
You stormed into an embassy. You violated the only absolutely inviolate rule of international relationships. And why? So you could kill a nobody. We wanted to question him, not to kill him. For God's sake, you're supposed to display some kind of judgment.
I did. I thought that one less bomb maker in the world would be a good thing.
Exactly. One bomb maker. We're trying to find out how an entire network of terrorist groups is financed, and you give us one bomb maker. Hardly the big picture, wouldn't you say? The man isn't even a true believer. He's a gun for hire. And thanks to your overdeveloped trigger finger, we have no idea who hired him or why. And how the hell did you find out where I lived?
Same way I found out your name. I thought M was a randomly assigned letter. I had no idea it stood for...
Utter one more syllable and I'll have you killed. I knew it was too early to promote you.
Well, I understand 00s have a very short life expectancy. So your mistake will be short-lived.
So you're playing James Bond. You want him, you said it's a challenge because it's the beginning and you're developing the character. How is he different than the characters we've gotten to know through Roger?
I mean, Roger's, played it in one way. I certainly, I'm very careful. I never compare myself to any of that. I just wanted to sort of give the character fallibility.
And a rougher edge?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a rougher edge. Someone that I wanted it to feel that when we were watching the movie that we weren't sure that the outcome was actually a done deal. So that as an audience we're watching it and we're going, well, he might not make it through this. Yeah. And that, I know, he's James Bond. We're going through, he's certainly going to, he's certainly hopefully going to win the day. But that process I wanted to be questionable. I wanted an audience maybe to question his actions, maybe wonder, is he doing the right thing? Of course he goes for that. He always gets the bad guy. But that journey, I want more than one emotion. I didn't want to sort of start the film with the world needed saving and end the film with the world being saved. I wanted there to be a journey of such that we could, and then put into that the action sequences and the wonderful locations and try and make one seamless movie. Also,
he gets bloodied here. Rarely does Bond get. He gets beaten, but not bloody.
he gets beaten, and certainly, I mean, at one sequence he's tortured, and he genuinely thinks at that point it's all over. I mean, he thinks that that's the end. But I like the fact that hopefully that we see someone who knows it's the end but won't give up. And that's, I think, one of the things that defines him.
He will not give up.
Will never give up, no.
They can torture him.
Yeah.
Here's another clip from this. This is where Bond meets Vesper Lynn, played by Ava Green. This is the lady we were talking about.
That's
it changes
right,
your life.
Who I
Roll
fall in
tape.
love with.
I'm the money.
Every penny of it.
The Treasury has agreed to stake you in the game.
Vesper. I do hope you gave your parents hell for that.
Thank you. Your boss must be well connected. I've never seen so much go out the door so quickly.
Not quite so stylishly. May I ask you where it is?
10 million was wired to your account in Montenegro, with a contingency for 5 more if I deem it a prudent investment. I suppose you've given some thought to the notion that if you lose, our government will have directly financed terrorism.
You just said as we were watching that you drank a lot in this movie. Yeah.
Well, I think it's partly Dutch courage, and it's partly sometimes he gets himself banged up and he needs a good scotch. I mean, it's really, it's sort of fitted into the character and fitted into the story.
And it was at the line where it shaked or stirred and you said, I don't give a damn?
Yeah. I don't want to give it away, but yes.
Yes. I mean, so there's where you're taking liberty with whatever people do.
Well, we had to tick a number of boxes. We have to tick a number of boxes because it's a Bond movie and because, you know, we would be failing fans and we'd be failing the franchise.
If you didn't touch certain bases.
We didn't touch it. But what we've done, and the writers have done so cleverly, is we've approached everything from a different angle. And hopefully they've just been plot-driven as opposed to the gag. But they're all in there. Everything that we sort of, you know, that we know and love is in there.
You committed to do two more of these?
2 or 3 more.
2 or 3 more?
Yeah. I don't remember what the details are at the moment.
It's great to have you on this program.
It's been a pleasure.
Sheldon Adelson is here. He is the chairman and chief executive officer of the Las Vegas Sands Corporation. It owns and operates the Venetian Casino Resort and the Sands Expo and Convention Center. According to Forbes magazine, he is the 14th richest person in the world and the 3rd richest person in the United States in 2006. His net worth is estimated at $20+ billion. I am pleased to have him here at this table, not only to talk about such immense wealth, but also his interest in medical research and a rather remarkable life. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let me just start by talking about just the business thing. You have been in and out of a lot of businesses. Your genius has been creating businesses.
I won't exactly say genius,
Okay,
but
fair enough. What's the principle?
my hobby has been to create business.
I mean, why is business interesting to you?
I don't know. It just is. I think it's the opportunity to create something and accomplish something.
Yeah. And you have what skill that you think has enabled you to be successful?
Well, it's a whole long story about what makes an entrepreneur, but I think the biggest, I think one of the most significant characteristics about being entrepreneurial is to have the courage of your own convictions. You know, I've been in a number of businesses, and I would succeed in some, and I tell other people. At first, I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to be case studies at business schools. I didn't want to teach anybody. I didn't want to lecture there. Now it's okay because what I found out is that I could set up a roadmap to success in the particular business. Nobody wants to follow it.
Entrepreneurs do it for the money or
No,
for something else?
Not at all. Not at all.
What
not
else?
for the money.
What do they do?
Accomplishment.
Accomplishment. To win, to make a difference.
Self-fulfillment.
To show you can
to feel good about something, and we do something that, in my particular case, my method of operation is to identify, challenge, and change the status quo.
Your first big success?
That's what makes a lot of fun for me.
What was your first big success?
My first huge success?
Yes.
I mean, I had a success when I was 16 years old.
What was that?
I was in the vending machine business. I've had successes, and I went to school to be a court reporter. I was successful at that. As a matter of fact, just recently I ran across an attorney who was one of the attorneys that for which I took the transcript for a particular case here in New York City. So it's been with me all my life. But my most recent success before the Las Vegas Sands Corporation the trade show that everybody knew was Comdex.
You sold that for more than $700 million. $800
million.
$800 million, all right. Which is more than 700.
Counting? You know, you mentioned billions before. What went through my mind was, yes, it's a lot of billions, but just remember, $1 billion doesn't buy what it used to.
That's certainly true. Suppose you are addressing a group of young business students, and they say, okay, Mr. Adelson, you know, we want to be entrepreneurs, and we want to do what you have done, and we hear you, but what's the most important thing we need to have? What the most defining quality that is a common denominator of all entrepreneurs that you know and admire?
The courage of your own convictions.
Yes.
Create a vision, identify it, and go for it. Now, in terms of making or creating a product or a service, you have to, instead of trying to fit the product or service into a budget, fit the budget into the product or service. People say, I only have so much money, but first they have to, and of course everybody has a limited amount of money to start businesses, and for startups it's difficult to get, very difficult to get financing. The main characteristics as an individual you need is courage of your own conviction and the willingness to take a risk, and then to believe in what you think and take the risks, and then be prepared to get back up if you fall down in the process.
What's your biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake in life?
No, in business. We'll get to life.
Well, I didn't go to business school.
Really?
Right.
It was a mistake not to go.
Big mistake.
Because you would have learned how to read a financial statement, or you would have learned about management and leadership?
I can be responsible for full charge bookkeeping, but that's not it. I know how to read financial statements, but the point is that I would have had a better foundation to go into the world of finance and the world of business other than what I had. I don't have any college degrees. I have the equivalent, probably the equivalent, but a non-matriculated equivalent of degrees.
You didn't go into the gambling business, what, 91, 90, 91?
Actually, I bought the Sands in 1989 with some friends. And we didn't operate it except for a few months from 91 to 95. At the end of 95, I spent full time in Las Vegas. And then I decided I had to do something with the Sands. I had sold the trade show division.
Right.
And then I decided that I had to do something with the Sands.
Because nothing was
just the
happening
market was changing. I mean, there were no more, there was yesteryear style, which was garden style apartments, limited number of rooms. I only had 715 rooms, and people were building multi-thousand room properties. So in order for me to look forward and to be competitive, I had to tear down the Sands, and I had to put up something more productive.
You imploded the Sands, and it... Yeah.
Puff. Went up in a puff of smoke.
And then you built the Venetian. Tell me about Vegas, and tell me about gambling, and where is it as a business?
Well, consistent with challenging and changing the status quo, everybody in the industry was, since 1931, when gaming was first legalized in the state of Nevada, people were very casino-centric. Yeah. Today, Las Vegas is the fully matured, fully evolved capital of entertainment. It is a city of entertainment where gaming is only one of the entertainment elements.
And is it the great revenue stream?
No.
It's not.
In my case, the gambling, although we're one of the two top casinos in the city, and we continue to grow.
In terms of gross or in terms of?
In terms of gross and profitability.
Right.
Gambling only contributes 31% to our bottom line.
Steve Wynn is a friend of mine, as you know.
I've heard.
Right. There's a competition between the two of you.
No, I'm not competing with him. I don't want to compete with him. I offered him half of my strip, half of my vision in Cotai. Offered it to him.
Cotai is Macau.
Macau.
Right.
It's we're rebuilding Las Vegas Strip in Macau.
And where did that come from, that vision?
Sort of, I was thinking about it, and it solidified in my head one night in a dream.
And Asians like to gamble for better or worse.
There's a high propensity to gamble. Well, they see gambling as a different form of entertainment.
Right.
It's not that they're not addicted gamblers.
Right.
I mean, this is not in their culture. It's in their culture to challenge luck. Luck is the issue that they chase. You very rarely hear of a Chinese person or an Asian person for that toast for good health. Yes. They always toast for good luck and good fortune. And the concept of feng shui is based around the concept of luck.
So you knew there was...
Well, there wasn't any question in my mind. There was a fellow that had a monopoly in Macau for 42 years.
Stanley Ho.
Stanley Ho.
Yeah. He can't be happy that you're coming in, is he?
Well, at the beginning, he was happy to have competition, and he bought into the government's idea that he could dilute the monopoly.
Do you see a day in which Macau will be bigger than Las Vegas?
We're experiencing it now.
Already?
Already. If not, it's neck and neck, or certainly be ahead of it very quickly.
So
this year, next year, the year after.
Macau will be the gambling capital of the world?
Right. But we're not in competition with Macau. It's a complementary development.
You also have a franchise to go to Singapore.
Yes, we do. It'll be a duopoly. We'll open first, so we'll have a monopoly for a year or two. But it's a totally different part of the market, even though it's in Asia. It's 3.5 hours flight away from Macau. And there is Malaysia and Indonesia and India and others, Indochina. There's a lot of countries, Thailand, and there's a lot of countries that can supply a lot of customer base.
Why do you think Steve did not want to join you?
I can only tell you what he said at the time.
What did he say?
He said, that's the most stupid idea I ever heard of in my whole life.
To go to Macau?
No, to set up a strip.
Oh, to set up a strip.
No, he was in Macau.
Right. We
were standing after he got the concession. We were talking about airplanes. We both like airplanes.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it in the hallway, so we talked for about a half hour. And then I got an idea. I said, Steve, I got an idea. You have a piece of land. I don't have land. Let's build 2 properties, temporary, on your land. And then if we do that, we'll go hell-bent for leather to get the Cotai Strip built. And I explained what the Cotai Strip idea was, and he said, it's the most stupid idea I've ever heard of in my whole life.
And today?
Today he says, what he says is that he said that he responded that he didn't think it would be ready to develop until 2009 or 2010. Now, it was a bay. It was just water. I don't know how anybody can project at a certain year that something is going to do well. It is true, giving him credit, it is true that the more mature a development becomes, the less risk there. But the less risk, the less reward. So in describing entrepreneurship, you have to say that risk is reward and reward is risk. As I said before, you have to be willing to take risks. And it was a vision that it was only a bay. There was just water and a causeway going through it connecting 2 small islands. So you have to be a visionary to see the opportunity there.
Steve thinks of himself, and others do as well, because of his capacity to visualize and design these properties.
He's an excellent designer, and he's an excellent person in public relations. I think maybe once he got insulted because I asked him to do PR for me. That's how good I think he is.
He told me once that, and as I said, he's a good friend of mine, he said to me that what satisfies him the most is the creation and development of the project. I mean, once it's built and open, he begins to think
I have an obligation to all the shareholders of the company. We're a publicly held company. And it is not, the only purpose of building a good property is so that you could sell it and make money at it. A business is a commercial enterprise, and the report card for a commercial enterprise is making money.
And the stock price.
No, the stock price only reflects whether or not you're doing well, and people believe you have a solid future.
But Sumner Redstone, also a billionaire,
yes.
he is obsessed by the stock price.
I'm not obsessed by the stock
He's
price.
obsessed by it. He will tell you.
I have a different strategy in life.
Which is?
You take care of the customer with the best product and service you could make, and profit follows you like your shadow.
So you're in Macau and you're going to develop the Strip.
Right.
When will that come on stream?
Well, we're opening the first one in a few months.
And then you'll build a series
just the end of the second quarter, approximately, at the beginning of the third quarter of 2007.
Where else is there gold in them there hills?
Japan. Thailand. India. Anywhere in Asia.
That's where.
Almost anywhere, not Indochina.
So if you were a young man, you'd be in Asia, wouldn't you?
If I were a young man today,
yeah,
I'd be in China, in Shanghai, creating basic industry businesses.
Like
Materials, like chemicals,
right.
like basic appliances and consumer products like refrigerators and
in the manufacturing
turbines
business, right.
in the manufacturing.
Creating product.
Creating product.
Well, General Electric's there doing that very thing.
Doing that
in a huge way.
Right.
And
they'll succeed enormously.
What do you want your legacy to be?
That I've contributed to the acceleration of to find cures for medicine, for diseases in medical research.
That's what makes a difference for you.
Make a difference for all of us.
No, but that's what, in terms of your legacy, that's what you want to be.
My legacy is to help to create cures. I've taken an entrepreneurial approach to medical research, and I've created the first of what I hope will be about 10 different diseases that we're covering.
Tell me more.
Well, when I was approached by a neurologist to fund some research, I don't want to get into something I know absolutely nothing about. So I talked to some medical researchers around the world. And what I found out is that there are a lot of medical researchers. There's two reasons why more cures are not found faster. One is money. It's a crass commodity called money. And the other one is called collaboration. You have a lot of geniuses all over the world, these PhDs, MDs, that are their IQ must go through the roof. Yeah. And they all work independently, and they all have a pride of authorship that they don't share with anybody. But the most important thing to them is to publish. They have a phrase, publish or perish. Their promotions, their compensation are based upon how much they published. So I went back to my neurologist, and I said, look, I've got an idea. Let's try to put everybody together, and I have an idea to both encourage collaboration, and I'll supply the money. My wife and I will supply the money. So what we've worked out is a program called the Adelson Medical Research Foundation, and the first disease we're covering is neurology. We got together...
Disease of the nerves.
Disease of the nerves. We're attacking a common denominator that's challenging the status quo. The status quo is to study neurological diseases one at a time. Parkinson's, spinal cord injury, a stroke, MS, ALS. Right. The common denominator that everybody's looking to study is the reinnervation of nerves. How do you get nerves
to regenerate
work?
Nerves?
Regenerate nerves.
Yeah. Lots of people are very, very, the late Chris Reeves used to think about that all the time.
Well, I think about it all the time, too. I have a neurological condition. Fortunately, my condition, it just gets better on its own. Yeah. So my nerves, I had a nerve attack one time and a nerve inflammation, which was very painful.
So you're laying the seed money in here.
Not seed money. We're going to pay all the research money that people can spend.
How much are you prepared to commit?
Billions.
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 Someone said to me...
But I have it in a different approach.
Okay.
Researchers have to meet 3 qualifications. One, they have to submit their program. I want your name, ring, serial number, and your dog tags. And give us a brief description. I'm just kidding. It's a military term. Yeah. Your name, your address, the institution you're with, and a brief description of the research you want to conduct. And we take that and we send it out to all the scientists. In this most recent case for APNA, the Adelson Program for Neural Repair and Rehabilitation, we send it around to all their peers.
APNEA.
APNRR.
Or NRR, right.
We send the description and the name and serial number to their peers. So in this case, about 40 of their peers, from 10 institutions, from Harvard, Rockefeller here in New York, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, Weizmann in Israel, Rochester, University of Rochester, University of Chicago, University of California at San Francisco, LA, and San Diego. And these institutions can sort of subcontract different work. Now, we have a whole potpourri of skills there. We have geneticists, we have immunologists, we have stem cell researchers, et cetera, et cetera. So the first thing they have to do is get their proposal. Instead of spending 6 months or a year and then submit a grant, and then because of budget considerations, they may or may not get it. The NIH, which is a phenomenal agency, has their budget changed every year, so they can only approve 1 out of 10, and sometimes when the budget is tight, only 1 out of 20. You could have 19 meritorious research grants go without.
So now they have a place to go.
Now they have, in these fields, they have a place to go.
And the fields, one more time, neurology.
Melanoma.
Melanoma, cancer.
Ovarian cancer.
Right.
And we're studying the possibility of doing Crohn's and colitis. We haven't decided that yet.
Suppose somebody watching this show, somebody may have a very good idea. Sure. What should they do?
Well, they just they somehow or other get to me.
Right.
Or to my Medical Research Foundation, which is based in Boston.
And it's called?
Adelson Medical Research Foundation.
Okay. It's a pleasure to have you on the broadcast.
My pleasure to be here.
Really
Thank you very much.
Good for you. Alex Trebek is the host of Jeopardy! It is television's most popular quiz show. He has held that position for 22 years. He has won 4 Emmy Awards and has a nightly audience of more than 12 million. Jeopardy! Recently went into the Guinness Book of World Records as the game show with the most Emmys, a total of 25. In November, it will celebrate its 5,000th episode. I am pleased to have Alex Trebek to the table for the first time. Welcome. It's about time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have been a question or an answer 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times on the program, yeah. And some people in our industry consider it as having arrived when they become Jeopardy clues.
I was
Obviously,
thrilled the day
somebody.
I didn't see it the first time, and somebody called me and said, well, I was thrilled.
Well, some celebrities...
Because I think it was my mother who called me to say.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I say that with some reservations, unfortunately, so many of our fans are elderly women. Yes. I get people coming up to me all the time saying, my mother is your biggest fan. Now, the people who say that are usually in their 40s or 50s, which puts their mothers in their 70s and 80s. I would love for a 10-year-old to come up to me and say, my mother thinks you're hot. She has a crush on you. It doesn't work that way.
What is the magic of it?
I think there are a number of levels on which Jeopardy succeeds. One, Americans are very competitive, and everybody wants to know how they compare to other individuals in that same area. Yeah. So when people are watching Jeopardy, and we go through about 60 questions, 60 clues per half hour, they're playing along. You can't watch Jeopardy while you're vacuuming the floor or while you're doing something else. You have to pay attention. And if you're able to come up with a response before one of our contestants, then you feel pretty good. And if you happen to be watching the program with somebody else in the room, even better, because then you are satisfying yourself and you are amazing your mate, your children, or your friend who's sitting there next to you, and they're saying, damn, he's a lot smarter than I thought. He got a lot of those clues before the contestants did. So it operates on that level. Another level on which I think we're very successful is that I think we're the good part of reality television. Yeah. We don't embarrass people. People on our show, as the old commercial used to say, earn money make money the old-fashioned way. They earn it. Yeah. There isn't too much luck involved. It's a game of skill to a certain extent.
As was a game in England called Masterminds, I think.
Yes, but Mastermind was much slower paced, and I'm not sure that Americans could adjust to that pace on television in our country.
They never brought it here.
No.
Yeah. Can you tell me, do you guys know what makes a great contestant? I mean, has there been any study in looking at the backgrounds, looking at whatever you can find out?
Well, over the years,
the profile of those who've done the best is similar.
Teachers, students, lawyers have done proportionately much better than other occupations, other ages. Students and teachers, because they are constantly dealing with the learning process, they have to think on their feet. Students quite often are trying to embarrass their teachers by asking them a question about the subject, and the teacher has to react quickly. Lawyers, same thing. They're dealing quite often in adversarial situations. They have to respond very quickly. They're used to the pressure of responding quickly. So they're not put off by that. And when they get on television, on our show, in front of the lights and in front of an audience, they're perhaps more relaxed than the other players would be. If you had an office worker from New York City or a plumber from Poughkeepsie, used to doing their jobs, but now all of a sudden they have to shine in another way. it becomes more difficult for them. So those three do well.
Some might ask, why do you think it's been good for you? In other words, why has, I mean, you are highly praised for this. I mean, somehow they think that this is the right fit for you.
Yeah.
You know, not Wheel of Fortune, not whatever. This show, I mean, there's something about, this is kind of a smart guy that he fits doing this kind of thing.
Well, I've always had a great respect for learning and for people who are bright and who are able, for instance, recently on this program, you had former Secretary of State James Baker, and as I watched, I said, my gosh, he was one of America's leaders, an extremely bright, thoughtful man. And in Washington, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of politicians that we can dish against because they make mistakes and they get greedy and they do the bad things that rate a lot of press notice. But there are a lot of excellent people. In our contestant searches, we travel all over the country, and in the early days, I used to do the contestant searches. I'd go out there. One of the reasons would be to drum up interest in our show. And the best contestants, the most intelligent people we were testing, were always in Washington, D.C. And I used to tell folks, I said, that makes me feel good about our government because smart people are here. They've congregated in the nation's capital. So yeah, I've had a respect for knowledge and a genuine feeling of awe, if you will, for our contestants who from all walks of life come out there and demonstrate that knowledge and do well.
Speaking of that, did you have any kind of special relationship with Ken?
Ken Jennings? No, I don't associate with contestants before or after they appear on the program, but Ken was with us for over 37 hours, and we got to be friendly. I had a great deal of respect for him. He's probably the best player we've ever had on the program on many different levels, even though he's not the biggest money winner. Brad Rutter of Pennsylvania defeated Ken and another player in the ultimate tournament of champions playing for $2 million. But Ken had a good sense of humor, a good sense of himself, knew a lot about a lot of things, and understood the game.
What has it done for you beyond high visibility, very good income,
That's not too bad so far.
So far, very good. Yeah. I mean, what else has it done for you? I mean, has it given you an opportunity to do things you wouldn't have been able to do? Has it given you professional opportunities that you have considered but not done? Have you made choices about your life and career because you were on this locomotive called Jeopardy?
Well, one of the things it's done, as you point out, it's given you visibility, and the visibility helps in other areas. Years ago, during the starvations in Ethiopia in the early 90s, I saw all these starving people on television, and I wanted to do something to help more than just sending in a contribution. And I contacted a friend of mine who had been doing some promos for World Vision, and I said, if there's any way I can help, please let me know. She contacted the people at World Vision. They got back to me, and they started sending me around the world to do these feature items to help them raise funds to deal with these problems and help with these child adoption services all over the world. And so that's one way in which it has helped me. In other ways, a lot of people say, do you get folks who come up to you on the street and try to nail you with clues and see if you're as smart as you appear on television? That has diminished a great deal since the early days of the program. And people now respond in a very friendly way. I'm somebody who's in your home 5 days a week. I'm hopefully perceived as a nice guy.
Clearly,
and I haven't lost a lot of my privacy. People respect that, and they treat me very nicely, and they don't rush me, and they're not in awe of me. I'm just a regular guy who happens to be hosting one of their favorite shows.
You tape it how many days a week?
We do 2 days a week, 5 shows a day. So I go in at 7 in the morning. I get the games, all 5 games for that day, which have just been selected by somebody from Standards and Practices. They select them at random. I get the 5 shows at 8:30, go into a production meeting at 9:30, then go to the studio, get dressed, get made up, start taping at 11:30. We're done by 5 p.m. Five shows. 5 shows, 2 days a week. So people say, what do you do the rest of the time? That's a pretty good job. Well, it is. It's a very good job.
It's a very fine job.
But I travel, and on occasion we go on the road to do college championships, and now we're in New York at Radio City Music
Explain
Hall.
that to me, this Radio City deal.
Well, these are celebrity shows.
Right.
And it's also our way of being a charitable organization. We're going to be giving away $1 million total to various charities represented by the celebrities. If you're a contestant on the program, your charity will be guaranteed $25,000. If you win your game, your charity or charities will split $50,000. So from that point of view, it's a great incentive for the performers. And there are performers out there who not only like our show, but who are very competitive also. And they want to demonstrate that they're just not an actor who is able to do somebody else's words, that they have intelligence. They know about what's going on in the world, and they can shine in this different milieu.
Do you go back to Canada much?
I get back there probably once or twice a year. I will be going next weekend in honor of a surprise birthday party for a friend of mine, one of my early producers at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. His wife is throwing a surprise 70th birthday for him. And I was back there with my wife in June. I've been honored with my star on the Canadian Walk of Fame. So I now have the Canadian Walk of Fame as well as the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Just for the record, here is Ken Jennings when he ends his streak on his 75th appearance. Roll tape.
Nancy, you wrote down your response rather quickly, I thought. I hope it's correct. Let's take a look.
So too.
What is H&R Block? You're right. Your wager, 4,401, taking you up to 14,401. You have a $1 lead over Ken Jennings right now. And his final response was FedEx. His wager was 5601. He winds up in second place with $87.99. And Nancy Zerg, congratulations, you are indeed a giant killer. Our new Jeopardy champion, 14,401. Ken, take a look at the audience. The audience is paying tribute to not only Nancy, but to you as well. All good things have to come to an end, don't they? Well, too bad for Ken, but he's going home with a lot of money. $2.5 million.
Now, he took it pretty well, but how did you take it?
I had a tear in my eye.
Did you really?
I really did. It came as such a shock. I was so used to saying, and Ken, you now have added $26,000 and you have this. What? Ken's going away? He's been with me for 16 weeks of taping, and now I have to say goodbye. There was strange.
That's what I meant about the relationship.
And we had no time at the end because we were at the end of the program and we were out of time, so I didn't even have a chance to shake his hand or anything like that. I did it at the beginning of the next program. We brought him back for that, but I really felt an emotional attachment to Ken Jennings at that time.
Merv has made a fortune from this, as we've already noted, and Wheel of Fortune as well.
Yes, indeed. He created both programs, and he wrote the think music for Jeopardy. And I had dinner with Merv recently, and he told me how many millions he makes a year off of this. And there was an article in the press not too long ago that said that over the years, Merv has made between $70 and $80 million just off the music.
How much do you think he's made off of Jeopardy?
Well, he sold Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune some years ago, so he no longer gets a royalty from the programs, I believe.
What did he sell it for?
He sold it for $250 million.
One or both?
Both of them.
Okay.
But he then added to that by buying hotels in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and Atlantic City.
And then he got involved in the Bahamas, didn't he, or somewhere like that?
I visited Merv on his boat the other day. His boat is bigger than my house.
All right, take a look. There's Will Ferrell, who parodies Alex. Here it is.
Ferrell never dressed as well on Saturday Night Live as he did when he was portraying me.
And what do they say? Imitation is a sincere form of flattery.
Yeah, I loved it. People ask me all the time about that, in spite of the fact that Will hasn't been on Saturday Night Live for a couple of years now. And I wish he would come back to the program so that they could do these takeoffs again. He did come back to guest host a year after he left the program, and they did another Jeopardy parody, which I love. I mean, it's, as you say, it's the sincerest form of flattery. It makes me feel good, and the people in the audience know immediately what the reference is, just as they know immediately what the reference is when organists at baseball games start playing the Jeopardy theme when the manager goes to the mound to make a pitching change. They recognize the theme, so, oh, that's Jeopardy. Of course. Did you phrase that in the form of a question? Oh, yeah.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Continued success. Do it forever.
Okay, well, I don't know about that.
As we go out.